Well, looks like I'm going to be waiting a little bit longer for the Packers to be at number one. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to another episode of Podcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. I caught that pen better than Marvin Harrison Jr. caught balls this week. Grossi. And today, we are going to be breaking down the top 10 teams heading into week 4 of the 2025 NFL season. And as we get closer to the end of September, things are going to start coming into focus a little bit more. We're going to start to see which teams are good, which teams are bad. But thankfully, we're not at that point yet. Because, I mean, hey, even the Dolphins look better on Thursday night. So there's still hope somewhere. But before we break into the top 10, let's do our honorable mentions of the week. The first honorable mention is going to be the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers having a game-winning field goal to seal the game against the Arizona Cardinals. And listen, I've been praising the 49ers for the past couple weeks now, especially on the defensive side of the ball. The fact that their offense has been able to stay afloat with Brock Purdy out, George Kittle's out, it's pretty darn impressive. Robert Saleh returning to the 49ers has been a big boost to that defense, which was not good these past couple of seasons. And so you start to feel pretty good about the 49ers within their division. They're supposed to have the easiest schedule. The problem is, and why they're not in the top 10 right now, is because the news we got yesterday that Nick Bosa, unfortunately, has torn his ACL and is going to miss the rest of the season, which is a pretty significant blow to that 49ers defense. And so while they were able to get a win and remain 3-0 against a division rival in the Cardinals, I'm not super confident about their future. Of course, getting Brock Purdy back and George Kittle back is going to make that offense even better, even though Mac Jones has done a nice job in his absence. But ultimately, it's tough to get a ton of confidence right now about the 49ers with that major injury. We'll see how they're going to play this week, but at least they get an honorable mention. Then staying once again in the NFC West, I'm going to shout out the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks were able to make quick work against the New Orleans Saints. Their special teams look good. Their defense continues to look really good. And their offense, it looks like they can actually block and protect their quarterbacks now. Now, the reason I don't have the Seahawks in the top 10 is because the team I do have at number 10, I feel a little bit more confident in based on their division. I think that their division's a little bit more wide open. Meanwhile, the Seahawks are facing some stiffer competition in the NFC West with all 4 teams above 500. And so I can give the Seahawks credit for beating the Steelers. Of course, they lost to the 49ers week 1. And the Saints, the Saints aren't the greatest team right now. And so while I definitely want to shout out the Seahawks, it'll be interesting to see how they're going to play going forward against some stiffer competition. But as of right now, they're beating the teams that are in front of them. And so because of that, they get a shout out and some well-deserved credit. And then finally, for the third honorable mention, I gotta shout out the purple incarnation of Satan, the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings, I thought they were dead and buried after that Falcons game. J.J. McCarthy getting banged up, Aaron Jones going on IR. They had a litany of injuries on the O-line to the defense. That didn't stop them. Isaiah Rodgers, holy cow, man, had the game of his career against the Bengals. Multiple turnovers. The defense was on fire against Cincinnati. Jake Browning, a former Minnesota Viking, could do absolutely nothing, and that game got away from Cincinnati very quickly. Carson Wentz also was pretty darn good against that Bengals defense, and ultimately for the Vikings, it's going to be interesting to see how their season's going to progress when J.J. McCarthy gets healthier and the rest of the team gets healthier. We talked about this team heading into this season that they have a really good supporting roster, and so if J.J. McCarthy is able to develop, they can be a problem. They were definitely a problem for the Cincinnati Bengals. They'll be taking on the Steelers in the international game this upcoming Sunday, where they'll meet Aaron Rodgers once again, and we'll see what happens. So starting off with number 10, you got the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's right, Jaguars fans. You've made the top 10. I got to give you some credit, and I will say it was between the Seahawks and the Jaguars, and the only reason I gave it to the Jaguars is because that AFC South, I think, is wide open besides the Colts, who Indiana Jones is just absolutely crushing it right now. But let's talk about the Jaguars. Their defense has significantly improved from where they were last season. One of the worst defenses in the NFL. They're playing pretty darn well. And taking a look at that offense, even though it's been a tough time for Brian Thomas Jr., they're still getting it done when it matters.
Ohana means family. Family means nobody
gets left behind.
Travis Etienne is another guy who's been having a really nice start to this season, and the reason why I'm giving the Jaguars so much credit is because they were able to knock off the Texans, who, listen, I know they're 0-3 right now, but they have a phenomenal defense. Their pass rush is able to get after quarterbacks, their secondary is really good, and so I gotta give the Jaguars some credit, not only for beating a divisional opponent, but going up against a really good defense and coming away with the victory. And so for the Jaguars, while I'm still unsure of what they're gonna look like this season, the first 3 weeks they put on paper, they looked pretty good. They had that loss against the Bengals and Jake Browning, which definitely doesn't bode well, but ultimately bouncing back, beating the Texans this week, and like I said, knocking down that defense. They deserve a top 10 spot in my opinion. Let's see if they can hold on to it. Number 9, you got the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens taking a tumble down the power rankings after losing to the Detroit Lions last night. And listen, that game, especially the first 3 quarters, was a really close game. The Ravens defense came to play. Their offense was looking good. They were establishing the run. And then late in that game, it was another crushing Derrick Henry fumble in the 4th quarter.
Oh, no. Not again.
3 fumbles in 3 weeks now for Derrick Henry. And listen, he's a phenomenal running back, and I absolutely love King Henry. However, he's got to hold on to the football. And unfortunately for the Ravens, that wasn't their only problem going later into that game. Their offensive line allowed 7 sacks against Lamar Jackson. So you got to give a ton of credit to the Detroit Lions. But on the flip side, the Ravens didn't register a single sack, and they had the longest streak in the NFL of games with at least 1 sack. And so taking a look at the Ravens, I think they're losing to high-quality opponents like the Bills and like the Lions, but unfortunately, they haven't been able to close games out. They blew the doors off the Browns last week. Lamar Jackson had a phenomenal game, but ultimately, if they don't get better in the trenches, it is not going to be the kind of season that Baltimore fans want. We've been talking about them as a Super Bowl team heading into this season. Over the first 3 weeks, starting 1-2, again, against some really good opponents, they're going to have to knock down the Chiefs on Sunday to give me a little bit more confidence. It is a very long season, and I don't doubt that the Ravens can turn it around, but they have to get pressure on opposing quarterbacks, and they have to protect their own to get started. Number 8, what a world. You got Indiana Jones and the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are sitting here at 3-0 just like everybody predicted. Said no one ever. Jonathan Taylor having a phenomenal game this past Sunday, and I gotta say, the Colts early on in this season are one of the best stories. Daniel Jones has been playing efficient football. The defense looks like it has definitely improved from last season. However, it is not all sunshine and rainbows, because after 2 weeks, the Indianapolis Colts were forced to punt.
What are you doing? We don't do that here.
I'm going to miss that streak. But yeah, let's talk about the Colts. Not only were they able to get pressure after Cam Ward, which I'm pretty sure anybody can at this point, so that's not a knock on the Colts defense, it's more of a knock on the Titans O-line. They were able to beat a division rival, which is going to bode well for them later on in this season. And everyone's asking after 3 weeks, are the Colts for real? And honestly, so far, it's looking pretty good. Their offensive line is keeping Daniel Jones upright. Their run game with Jonathan Taylor. We've been talking about how Daniel Jones had success in the past. It was with Saquon Barkley going off. Jonathan Taylor is doing just that. Now he has additional protection. He also has a pretty good defense to rely on. And ultimately, for the Colts, their division is wide open. Their closest competition is the Jaguars, who also made the top 10 here. But other than that, you have a developing team in the Titans, and they haven't won a game. And you have the Texans, who also haven't won a game because their offensive line is poo-poo caca. So for the Colts right now, while I'm not claiming them to be Super Bowl champions or anything, this is the best start possible for them. They're in full control of the AFC South, and next week is going to provide a really big test as they're taking on the LA Rams, who have a very good pass rush, and they can go toe-to-toe with the Eagles like we just saw. So that will be a really good indicator to see where the Colts actually are within the NFL. But as of right now, the Colts once again make the top 10. Let's see how long this ride can last. Number 7, you got the LA Rams. The Rams were this close to getting revenge against the Eagles for that divisional round game.
Great opportunity squandered? Absolutely. A crushing blow? Yes. Will I get over it? No.
A blocked field goal by Jordan Davis, and listen, Rams fans, I know your pain, ultimately ended the Rams' hopes of winning against the Eagles. But let's talk about the first 3 quarters before that. The first half, the Rams were dominating. Their defense was looking great. They were getting after Jalen Hurts. Saquon Barkley was being kept in check, and it looked like the Rams were going to run away with it. Unfortunately for them, the Eagles were like, okay, time to play football again, and they were able to claw their way back into that football game. And so for the Rams, who I had at 7 last week, I didn't move them because honestly, they were very close to knocking off the defending Super Bowl champions. I still think they are a very good team, and while they're no longer leading in the NFC West, the 49ers have a litany of injury issues, and so I still believe in this LA Rams team to be contenders going forward. Like I said, just with the Colts, they're going to be taking on Indianapolis next week, so not only will it be a good gauge for the Colts, we'll also see if the Rams are going to be able to knock down Daniel Jones and give him his first loss of the season. But for Rams fans, I know you're hurting after Sunday, but take some pride. I think your team is still pretty damn good this year. And let's see if you bounce back this Sunday. Number 6, welcome back to the Detroit Lions. The Lions having one of the most impressive wins from this past week on Monday Night Football. Heading into this game against the Ravens, I think there was a bit of nerves. Week 1 did not go well against the Packers. That offense got shut down. Week 2, they blew the doors off the Bears, which I think everybody can do except the Cowboys. And so it was really a question of, is this offense back or is it just going against Chicago? The answer? Yeah, I think this offense is back. And we just mentioned this with the Ravens, but you have to give a ton of credit to Muhammad, to Hutchinson, because they were phenomenal along that defensive line. Getting after Lamar Jackson, who's one of the most elusive quarterbacks in the NFL, and bringing him down 7 times, yeah, that's a really great defensive performance. And taking a look at the offense, who said Dan Campbell couldn't coach without Ben Johnson?
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Whether it was going for it on 4th down, whether it was trick plays, that offense was humming along. David Montgomery was a monster on Monday night. They established the run. Jahmyr Gibbs was great too, but it was David Montgomery's night. Jared Goff didn't turn the ball over. The offensive line kept him protected all night. And this is the Lions team that a lot of people expected heading into this season. Of course, there was questions about the coordinators, but I think last night answered a lot of those questions for a ton of fans. And so for right now, the Lions are just outside the top 5. We'll wind up seeing if that week 1 game against the Packers was a fluke, or maybe that Packers defense really is that good. That's the hope that I'm holding on to. But as of right now, the Lions back in the top 10 at number 6. Number 5... we were at number 2. You got the Green Bay mother-loving Packers. The Packers, I had them at 2 last week, and unfortunately for them, they couldn't get it done as they choked the game away against the Cleveland Browns in the last 4 minutes of that game. And if that wasn't bad enough, they were the only NFC North team to lose this week.
Tulio, look on the positive side. These things can't get...
Excuse me, were you going to say worse?
So the Packers do fall 3 spots to number 5, and I can't blame their defense whatsoever. Their defense played a phenomenal game and didn't allow any points until inside the last 4 minutes of the 4th quarter. And it was a field goal. Unfortunately, Jordan Love had a very ill-timed interception, which set them up to score another touchdown, and then a blocked field goal later, and ultimately the Packers lost that game within the last 4 minutes. And so yeah, that sucked. It was pretty heartbreaking. The good news, the defense is still really damn good. It was against an AFC team, so hopefully that's not going to matter too much in the standings going forward. The bad news, the offensive line could not block. Jordan Love sacked multiple times on Sunday. They couldn't block for Josh Jacobs, whose streak got ended. They couldn't block for Jordan Love. And missing Zach Tom and Aaron Banks definitely affected the Packers' ability to have any kind of protection on Sunday. And again, the Browns' defense is very, very good. Their offense, imagine what they would look like with a real quarterback like Baker Mayfield. Sorry, I had to. But talking about the Packers, I still have a lot of faith in them going forward because they still were able to knock off the Lions. They were able to knock off the Commanders. And now they have a big primetime game on Sunday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys, where Micah Parsons is returning home. Yeah, I can't wait for that game. So hopefully it'll be a bounce back game for the Packers. Still sitting at 2-1. I still think they're one of the better teams in the NFL. But hey, we'll see going forward. Number 4, you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs, not to be confused with my shirt, got yet another win. But for Buccaneers fans, I feel like they just want to have a normal game.
Now, if you excuse me, I'm going to go home and have a heart attack.
But it ain't a Buccaneers game this season without some high blood pressure, because Baker Mayfield once again pulling it out, even though they had a blocked field goal, there was like 3 in the last 5 minutes in the Rams game, in the Packers game, and in the Buccaneers game, but they were still able to knock off the Jets. Now, the Jets are a feisty team, but I don't have them in the top 10, so why are the Buccaneers up at number 4? The rationale for me, even though they're suffering a ton of injuries, as Mike Evans just got hurt, and hopefully they will be getting Tristan Wirfs and Chris Godwin back soon, is that they're finding new ways to win every single week. Whether it's against the Texans, who again have a very good defense, whether it's against the Falcons and Younghoe Koo missing that field goal, or it's able to knock off the Jets at the very end, the Buccaneers are finding unique ways to win. Their defense is looking good, and while their offensive line is in shambles right now, Baker Mayfield is playing out of his mind. You want to talk about clutch QBs right now? It is Baker Mayfield. And so while the Buccaneers will get better as the season goes along, in my opinion, because they're just going to get healthier, I think they deserve a ton of recognition for the way that they are winning.
Me and Payne have a relationship not many people know about, and we're secret lovers.
But hey, whatever they're doing, it's working, and the Buccaneers keep finding ways to win. Number 3, you got the LA Chargers. Number 3 for the 3-0 Chargers. And listen, they're playing some really damn good football. The defense is looking good. They've beaten 3 divisional rivals in a row. And while Najee Harris getting injured is definitely unfortunate because he looked like the better running back this past Sunday, you gotta talk about Justin Herbert, man. Because this is what I have to imagine Chargers fans looked like when they were watching Justin Herbert throw that game-tying touchdown.
You're a goddamn artist. This is art, Mr. White.
Herbert has been playing out of his mind these last 3 weeks, and even when he was going up against a good defensive front in the Broncos, they were still able to get the win. I know it came down to a last-second field goal, but the fact that they have beaten 3 divisional rivals in a row to start this season, you talk about standings in the AFC West, that is going to play a huge factor later down the line. With Najee Harris being injured, we'll see how Amari and Hampton is going to fare for the rest of the season. They do need to establish that run to be even better than what they are right now. But hey, you can't beat perfect, and that's what the Chargers record is right now. And maybe, just maybe, you won't Charger it. Number 2, you got the Buffalo Bills. The Bills able to take care of the Dolphins on Thursday Night Football. And listen, that was a little bit of a closer game. The Dolphins were able to move the ball their opening drive and that drive before the halftime, and ultimately it turned into a defensive matchup. But for the Bills, it really didn't seem like they let that game ever get out of control. I know there was a couple of close calls, but you got to believe in Josh Allen at this point because he's looking really damn good. On top of that, James Cook on a short week had yet another nice night. And ultimately for the Bills, I don't think they're too impressed by their divisional opponents. Boring. And so sitting at 3-0 with the Patriots fumbling the game away, the Dolphins at 0-3, and the Jets, yeah, they haven't won a game either. It is the Bills' division to run, and hell, with the Chiefs and the Ravens sitting at 1-2, and they're playing against each other next week, Bills fans gotta feel pretty darn good about their team. You gotta hope that that defense is gonna get even better when they're gonna get some guys back from injury. But as of right now, the Bills are sitting at 3-0, sitting at number 2 in the power rankings, and number 1 in your hearts. And finally, number 1, you got the Philadelphia Eagles. I was reading some comments last week on the power rankings vid, and a bunch of people are like, oh, the Packers could probably be at number 1. They've been playing like that. The Eagles, who knows? And heading into this week, how that Eagles game was going in the beginning, I thought, oh man, I've made a terrible mistake. And ultimately, even though it was a close game, the Rams couldn't finish the job.
Hey, yo, lesson here, babe. You come at the king, you best not miss.
And you got to give a ton of credit to Jalen Hurts and that offense for getting back into that game, whether it's that connection with A.J. Brown in the second half or talking about that defense making that stand, blocking what was going to be that game-winning field goal. The Eagles deserve a ton of credit for bouncing back and fighting back against a really good team in the Rams. And why the Eagles are still number 1 for me is not only because they're undefeated, but because they can beat you in a litany of ways. Their defense is good enough to shut you down. When Saquon Barkley is good, they can run all over you. But if it's not going to be him, Jalen Hurts can get it done. I know there were a lot of folks who weren't impressed with Jalen Hurts last week as he barely had over 100 yards against the Chiefs, but who cares, man? They're finding ways to win, and that's what good teams do. And so while they had a pretty disastrous first half, the Eagles found a way to beat the Rams this week, and so because of that, they deserve a ton of credit. Within their division, they're sitting pretty because the Giants are... the Giants. We'll see how they do with Jackson Dart. You got the Cowboys, who just lost to the Bears, and the Commanders, who don't have Jaden Daniels, were able to pull off the win. But hey, if we're going off the NFC Championship game, the Eagles should be just fine. So ultimately, the Eagles remain at number 1. And Eagles fans, just keep on bullying your team because it's obviously working. And so just to recap, at number 1, you got the Eagles, 2 Bills, 3 Chargers, 4 Buccaneers, 5 Packers, 6 Lions, 7 Rams, 8 Colts, 9 Ravens, and 10 Jaguars. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Who should be on this list? Who should be off it? Let me know. I saw me at TomGrossiComedy.com, and a big shout and thank you to all the Patreon and YouTube members for supporting this channel. And thank you so much for watching. We should be hitting 900,000 subscribers within the next 24 hours. So thank you all for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.